Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you can catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so you can squad up in the notifications. Alright, so we've been following Batch H for a while now, and for the most part they've been keeping his true identity and a lot of information about him a secret. But since the conclusion of the Weapons of Mutant Destruction series, a lot of that stuff's been getting cleared up. Because for the most part we just had hints at what he can do or what he was capable of. And most of those hints we took from the mutants that were captured, what their abilities were, and we just kind of guessed that he would have some version of that incorporated into his abilities. And I feel like one of the biggest mysteries or biggest questions that a lot of people were asking is, will he be able to shrink down to like regular size? Or will he always be in that Hulk form like super huge? And because he has adamantium claws and an adamantium skeleton, it's like, how would he be able to shrink down from that Hulk size and not have his bones like explode out of his body? Because remember, we talked about this a while back. And for you guys that are new, I'll put all the links in the description to the different playlists. But you guys that's been rocking with me for a little bit, you know, we watched countless attempts of this go wrong. And I'm talking about chicken bones coming out of cream of wheat looking wrong. But after going through all those failed attempts, and Dr. Alba knew a lot of them were not going to make it. But she did figure this out. Because as we follow Weapon H's story through the Weapon X series, we see him just moments after he walks away from Amadeus Cho. And he looks like a regular dude. Or at least a regular dude that's walked away from the opportunity of murder in the first degree. And I don't care what nobody say, man. Cho's life was in danger right here. Because if Weapon H wanted to body this dude right here, it would have happened. It would have went down. What you say, Cho would have what? Huh? What? No, he would have died. And Batch H, who could have just put this dude in the blender, said, nah, I'm gonna chill, I'm gonna fall back. Just don't keep messing with me. We're gonna be cool. But when we do see him at the smaller size, we later get an explanation that the same technology that's within Lady Deathstrike that she uses to either extend her claws or retract them, this same technology is grafted all the way around Weapon H's entire skeleton. And to be a little more specific, Lady Deathstrike is part cybernetics as well, because inside of her she has various forms of nanotech that allow her to shift the size of her adamantium claws. And of course they have their limits to how much or how long depending on how much adamantium she has, but it's that same concept that applies to Batch H in the coating of adamantium around his bones. So that way his bones are always covered in adamantium. When he gets larger they grow with him, and when he gets smaller they contract back with him as well. And just to drop a theory here while we're talking about it, there may even come a time where we see him use his claws without hulking out. And I say that because we've kind of gotten a preview of it happening. Like, it didn't actually go down, but you can tell he was about to, or he thought about it. Because at one point in time when he's seeking shelter, he finds his cabin, and he goes in the cabin, only to be greeted by himself, and his name's Clay, by the way. And we learned that because he's greeted by himself talking to himself. But when he finds his cabin that he's looking to take shelter in, it's almost like he's led there by a memory. And this guy is haunted with all kinds of post-traumatic memories. And I want to say that he's an ex-Marine, but mainly because one of the androids or cyborgs that Weapon X sent after him was trying to lure him in or relate to him by saying, hey, you're a fellow Marine? It didn't work, of course, but it felt like a hint towards his earlier past. But something else that was shown in his dream is more of a certainty of where he comes from. Because sometime after serving in the Marine Corps, he went to work for Eagle Star Corporation. And it's at Eagle Star Corporation where something went terribly wrong and he turned on the other men that he was with. But I feel like a lot of these answers tie into this cabin that he's constantly drawn to. Because at another time when he walks into that same cabin, he sees his wife and he sees his twins, one boy, one girl. Like, he's remembering his family. Their names are coming back to him and he remembers his life with them. He even remembers that they had a dog. And I doubt whether it was this cabin specifically, because in the dream itself, the cabin gets destroyed. But when he walks into this cabin, kind of thinking that he's back home, he gets shot and just snaps out of it. And when he gets shot, he recognizes the guys from the dream of him being beaten unconscious. Or more specifically, because these may or may not be the exact same guys, but he recognizes the badge that they're wearing from Eagle Star Corporation. So at this point, he knows that these guys have a connection to his past in some way, shape, or form. And then it's in this moment that we see more of what Dr. Alba was talking about with his controlled anger, and not just that, but him having discipline as well. Because it's right here where we see him assess the situation, decide not to Hulk out. And for a split second, he thinks about using his claws, but he doesn't. But he shows his temperance repeatedly by not hulking out and turning that down to just using claws, turn that down to just using his bare hands and just beating their tail. Because with a healing factor and adamantium bones alone will go a long way. But what I want to do here is talk a bit more about Eagle Star Corporation, because I don't think we really touched on this company like at all. but they've been around for a little while. Like in the comics, the company's probably close to 10 years old, but this is more so one of those company entities that does most of their business under wraps or private contract. But just to be clear, these guys are scumbags, like certified dirtbags. And I say this because at one point they kidnapped the wife of a former employee, and I'm not even going to mention what happened when they took her. But her husband, Parnell Jacobs, who was War Machine at the time, he came back to save her, but shortly after, he's about to murder all of them and not lose an ounce of sleep. But she talked him out of it. And in these dreams that Clay keeps having, he's turning on these mercenaries and taking them out. And that's the reason why they jumped on him and started beating him up. But his memories are broken up into little fragments, so the best we can do is just piece together the pieces we're given at this moment and just fill in the gaps as the information comes to us. But if you ask me, my guess would be that they were doing something real questionable and he'd had enough. Either that or his family died in that exploding cabin that he keeps seeing, and when he found out who did it, he went on a rampage to get revenge. But those dreams and visions we really only get when he turns back into his regular self. But as he remembers more and more, I can't help but think that it's all going to point down to one person who either caused this to happen to him for him to enter the program, or they murdered his family in part of a cover-up for a larger conspiracy. But either way, since that run-in at the Weapon X facility in Texas, we find out that he's been covering a lot of ground. But before the crew even catches up with him, Warpath mentions that Clay's jumps when he's hulked out reach at least 10 miles at a time. And these guys that are tracking Batch H, they're arguably the best trackers in the world. Out of this crew here, mainly Logan and Warpath, and I say that mainly because Sabretooth be off a little bit sometimes. And we see that difference mainly with Logan, because he can differentiate by scent alone what's tears and what's sweat. And because of his background and his age and his experience, he's able to take all these little clues and sum up an idea of who they're after. And even still, while they're miles out before reaching where Clay is at, Logan's like, hey, give me the opportunity to talk to him first. And you can tell with him, this is coming from a place to where he recognizes those tears. He recognizes that confusion. He remembers escaping from Weapon X himself. So he makes a suggestion to try to relate with them first before they start going in guns blazing, claws swinging. But Clay at this point, he don't know who to trust. He recognized their scent when they approached, because he also has the heightened senses which he received from the Weapon X program. But as of right now, he can only tie their scent to the memory that he has of them at the facility. And speaking of which, I'm sure all you guys are thinking the exact same thing right now. Like, where in the world is Amadeus Cho? Because you would think he one of the main people that need to be taking care of something like this. And although we don't get a direct explanation right here, I'll leave a link, because I did a video back when Marvel did an announcement about the comics coming out this fall and where some of the characters will be at. Because aside from his appearance in the Generations issue, it also sounds like he's doing some Planet Hulk work as well too. But as soon as I get my hands on that, I'll let you guys know what's going on. But with us continuing to talk about Batch H, his abilities, and kind of a sneak peek into his origin, the next thing I want to talk about is flight, which is an ability that Warpath does have, and I remember for a while we were kind of wondering, will Batch H inherit this as well? And we find out soon enough that he hasn't. It's tough to say if he ever will. Personally, I don't want him to. But a Greg Pak woke up one day and was like, I think I want to give him flight. Like within the established writing, that could very much happen. But personally, I'll just be 100% honest. I really don't see that happening. But when we see him effortlessly tear through this team, impaling Warpath and slamming him down into the ground from hundreds of feet up in the air, then turning around and doing to Sabretooth what every Hulk does to Sabretooth, but in this case a little bit worse. Nah, a lot bit worse. But we'll get back to him when he lands in another zip code. And Domino, whose abilities we talked about before in the Deadpool 2 video, she shoots between the claws and hits him right in the eye. Like right in the pupil. And I can't help but think of Civil War 2 when Hawkeye shoots Hulk in the eye. And like, come on, like even with an explosive arrow, it's gotta pierce the skin first, or in this case, the eye. Like hands down, that is just completely ridiculous. But as we go forward, don't think we forgot about Sabretooth, he just ain't hit the ground yet. But aside from that, as we continue, we see another one of Batch H's abilities. And this one comes from the Hulk. The same way the Hulk can go underwater and not need oxygen, or go into space and not need oxygen, we see that Batch H is the same way, because he holds Logan underwater and he just looks at him. Like, you're gonna run out of oxygen, I'm just waiting for it to happen. And he just staring at him like, go to sleep, 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 go to sleep. There you go. Because he could literally do that all day. But one thing we'll notice as well, and it's kind of obvious, but I still want to mention it, and that's Dr. Alba following this whole time. And for her, watching Batch H run through these guys, it nearly brings tears to her eyes, because that's her success, her creation. So either way, if he's wasting Weapon X's resources as they try to capture him, or if he's wasting these guys, either way, she's just happy to see her creature be a success. But now, as for your crew and your boy Sabretooth, they've got the infirmary packed. And out of everybody, Domino's the only one who's not like banged up. And her, she's curious to why that is. Me personally, I thought it was just luck. But keep in mind, Logan's the only person who's really approaching this with an open mind and being more observant to who this kid is and who they're dealing with. Because aside from it being luck, and aside from what Domino thinks with her being the deadliest, as far as she thinks, Logan suggests the idea that he actually went easy on him. And I'd have to agree with him on that 100%. Because rather than trying to kill them, this was more of him sending the team a message. And the message is like, hey, I don't want to kill you, but if I did, it wouldn't be that hard. And that just reminds me of my initial thoughts on the character. And this is hats off to Greg Pak once again, because a lot of writers make powerful characters uninteresting or less interesting because they don't know how to handle a good story. And I don't see that problem here. But last thing I want to mention, like later on after the crew gets all healed up and suited back up, they make their way to this cabin in Wyoming, and they believe it to be the cabin where Clay's going back to. And they figured that by measuring the consistency of the directions that he jumps and travels and stuff. But before they check out the cabin, Sabretooth kicks Logan in the back, talking about it's about time we got a real leader. And right when he does this, he catches two hands, each with 2 claws apiece. And it's Laura Kinney, the Wolverine. But that'll do it for this one, guys. I know it's a cliffhanger, but we gotta wait till the next one come through. But let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments. I don't want to spoil it, but seeing Laura here now may be a sign of one more character joining the team. I don't want to spoil it here. I may have already spoiled it in my fall preview video, but let me know what you guys want to happen down in the comments. But don't forget to smash that like button. I got links up here so you can check out my other videos, and I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.